all about 7 ways to invest in property with little or no money. But before we get into that, if you're new to this channel, make sure you stroke that like and subscribe button. Really helps out the algorithms, and you'll get notified with more content like this and other videos all around property investing mindset. Is this a myth? Is this a scam? Is there such thing as no money down investing? Well, pretty much every 7 ways. There's a couple that I haven't done. There's two methods on this list that I've not actually used myself, but I've seen other people actually use them. Can you invest with little or no money? Absolutely yes. But what is the quote by Henry Ford? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You can't buy property with no money, but you can buy property with creative ways, not using none of your own money. And in this, we're going to share ways to do it with none or little of your own money. And I've done, as I said, all of these, barring 2, but the 2 I haven't done. I know really close people that have done them, so I'm going to share their experiences vicariously so you can explore them. I just chose not to. One of them I've just never been in the position to. Never explored it, and the other one I'm not keen on doing myself, but I know it can work for other people. So just because my own personal opinion does not favour it, doesn't mean I'm going to hold you back from that. I never try to enforce my opinions on you. Please, I ask you to be super active with this. Please comment, please share, please like. One of the things I will start off by saying though with this is a little disclaimer. It takes effort. I'm just reading the 10x book at the moment, Grant Cardone's, and the principle behind the 10x principle is it's probably going to take 10 times more effort than you ever thought it will take. So you need to put in 10 times more action than you initially think you need to put in to get where you need to go. And there's challenges along the way. So many people get into property, they hear no money down, they hear little or no money down, they hear these things and they are buzzwords, and some people have been misled on these. So I'm not here to mislead you. I'm telling you now, this can be done, but it is difficult depending where you are in your journey. So can this be done by anybody? I believe so. Will it be done by everybody? Unfortunately, no. It's very much like the gym. How many people buy an exercise bike, but let's leave it in a corner and don't do anything with it? The principle behind getting fit is very simple. Exercise for 30 minutes a day. You don't have to be massively strenuous. You can just go for a walk, eat, cut out crap food, drink lots of water. Pretty simple, but simple and easy are not the same things. So what you've got to think about on this is, I've seen people do this with a standstill start, but very little people do it because of the effort it takes. And when you talk about the 10x rule and Grant Cardone's book, you probably have to put, some people can put 5x in and raise money. Some people have to put 15x in to raise money. It's the same as some people start off within in the gym. If you go to the gym, so imagine this, like you're going to the gym, let's try to think of a way to do this, and you've got a bit of a belly on you when you start off going to the gym. It's going to be can you get to this journey of your destination and your 6-pack over here? We'll call this a 6-pack. I'm not even going to try and draw that. Can you get to this destination if you're out of shape? 100% you can. Of course you can get to that destination, but it's going to take you much more effort. If you go to the gym and without even any exercise, you are like this and you're already skinny, then their destination to their 6-pack is going to be a shorter destination now. And it's very much the same when you're raising finance or doing creative strategies, depending where you start. So your start point here could be you're already in a fantastic job, you're already in the financial sector, or you've already done other businesses. So you've already got transferable skills to carry you across and bring you to this point of the journey straight away. So say for instance, or you might have family members who've got money, or people in property already in your family, or people that just really trust you, or friends. So you might be starting from there. So your effort to get in these little to no money down strategies could be a shorter one. Don't and stay with me to the end as well, because I'm going to share with you, I'm going to show you these little to no money down strategies of what you can do, and I'm going to share with you the best way to leverage that at the end as well, a little hack you can do to fast forward all these strategies as well. But yeah, if you're starting from here, you just got to put more effort in. You can do it, but it takes more effort, you know? So it definitely can be done. I've seen it, I've done it myself, but it does take time and effort. And if you read the 10x rule, I really like this book, although Grant Cardone, it took me a while to warm up to Grant Cardone because he's just a little bit full on rah type character, and it took me a little while to just kind of warm up to that. It was a bit too, just a bit too full on, but he knows what he's talking about. The proof's in the pudding, as they say, with a lot of things. So really, a little disclaimer. Also, if you're here, should you be taking on all these strategies straight away? Potentially not. Maybe you need to get to about here before you start thinking about some of these things. But let's get into these anyway. With that said, the disclaimer said, can be done, not everybody will do it, because most people that start here just give up at here. They get to here and they give up. I can't do it. And the fridge calls him and goes, and that little internal dialogue makes them fail. But let's get into these methods, what you're looking for. So first method on this list is, let's try and get this in a place where you can see it on there. First method on here is, I think that's going to be a bit too big, OPM, which stands for Other People's Money. So, other people's money, what this can be in the form of, let's try and grab a different colour pen. So what I mean by other people's money, if you get a loan from somebody, so for example, I've just bought a property, I've just bought 2 properties and I funded it from a private loan. So if you can find your investment property over here, let's say this is your investment property, and you can find this over here, which is going to generate you the property I'm doing at the moment, I've lent private finance on it. I'm going to pay it back. I've got means to pay it back. But say I want to pay it over a longer period of time. If I can find this property, the property I've just bought, I've bought it for 77k. And its estimated return is going to be a 40% return on capital. ROCE, return on capital, which is the most important number you can work out of in the property. So if I'm getting 40% on this, once it's refinanced, I'm going to refinance that, and I bought it for 77k. Well, I don't know why I put a percentage next to it here, but I bought it for 77k. So I'm going to refinance out probably the full 77k and leave the refurb element in. My bit of money, but if I wanted to leave that refurb element in, I probably might leave 15k in there. So if I'm having a 40% return on that 15k, I've got 15k left in a deal and I'm getting a 40% return on that, I could quite comfortably say to somebody, I'll give you between 5 to 10% return on your 15k. And then I've still got a 30% margin on my 15k. So if I lent the full amount of this money to purchase this, which I did, I'm going to pay them back the 15k. I've raised that money elsewhere in the meantime, and I'm going to pay them back that full amount anyway. But if you've lent the full amount to purchase this property and buy this property, and you've left 15k in the deal, for example, and you can earn 40% return on capital what's left in that deal, you can easily get off from that and still have a margin. And that's quite attractive to people. What are you getting in the bank? You're getting 0.F all. Or in an ideal world, you would put false value up on this, which don't happen so often in today's market, so you've got to have these B plans. But in an ideal world, you can force the value up enough where, say you bought it for 77, let's say 75k to round the numbers off, you buy it for 75k, you add significant amount of value where you can get a loan against it. Say you spend 25k in total and you get it revalued at 150k and get 100k loan on it, you can pay them fully back their money and their interest and have all the money back out and move forward with a property for nothing. That's a rarer way, so you've got to think about how you can exit, maybe paying them a percentage over a period of time on their money. You could be paying it down with the interest, or you could be potentially, this 40% could be paying down the principal and the interest at the same time over a period of time, and it could be like attractive for somebody. Where can you get other people's money? So other people's money comes in the form of, let's get another different colour here so we can explain. Other people's money comes in a form of, you can do it from banks. That one's no good. That's running out. So with other people's money, let's just keep the same here. You can get loans from banks. I've done bank loans. I'm not encouraging this because you're not allowed to use bank loans for this. But I've had a bank loan before. So I had the bank phone me up before, say, hey, we've got a loan for you. Would you like it? I was like, yeah, of course I would. What would you like it for? I'd like it for a house. You can't have it for a house. If you said it was for a car, you could have had it. Can't have it now because these calls are recorded, but I'll phone you back, the guy says to me. I said, okay, no problem. Hang the phone up, phone rings again. Would you like a loan? Yes, 25k, money in the bank. I buy a house. Put that money, I had to top it up a bit, but I put the money into a house, which I then done the BRR strategy with, refinanced it, bought another house. The money from the 2 houses paid the loan and give me a profit back. And give me a profit on top of the loan. And then I refinanced that second house and bought a third house. I now own 5 properties. The loan's paid off and I own 5 properties from that one thing. go into loans very cautiously. I've seen many people get loans to get into property and end up spending it. How many, like, you've got to know your own disciplines. When people come to me and talk about loans, I don't encourage them loads unless they're really, really disciplined around their money and they're really close to finding deals. What I usually say is, if you can go and find the deals. If you can find deals, then think about a loan. But don't go out, get a loan, then try and find the deals. Because if you don't find a deal, you still got the loan. You still got to pay for the loan. You still got to pay for the loan in between that. You can't really get the bank loans as easy as you could before. I'm not encouraging you to do that. I was comfortable doing that purely because I was happy to step in the grey zone, because I could pay this. I could pay this whether or not the bank, whether or not the property worked. So I felt comfortable with that. I'm not encouraging you to do that. You're not allowed to do that, by the way, but I'll just let you know I felt comfortable with it. But again, credit cards. So you could potentially loan the purchase price and put the refurb materials on a credit card. You can get private investment. Lots of private investors out there looking to park their money somewhere. I've got my own money into projects at the moment, but as I'm going to slow down investing for it, like we portfolio building, I'm going to probably phase that out maybe. And one of the things I will do to replace that is probably start lending money to credible investors. It's a fantastic way. You can get 10%, 7% on your money. You put 10% into a crypto. If you get 10% on the cryptos in 6 months, you're over the moon. If you do it to a property investor with security, it's a great return. So it works really well as a win-win. I think I'm going to need to do these a little bit smaller because I'm not going to get all 7 on there. But yeah, there's lots of ways to raise other people's money. And as I said, can be in the form of the banks, can be in the form of, what's the name? Oh, another one is equity release. So I've released equity from an existing property before. It wasn't a buy-to-let. Or you could do it on a buy-to-let. You release some equity from it. If you release some equity, say you released £100,000 from a property and your mortgage is, say, your mortgage on a repayment is, say, £400 a month, roughly around that sort of money. And you can get long-term fixes. Again, on your own home. You can do this on your own home. I wouldn't encourage you to do it without finding deals. What you want to do as well is get the decision in principle if you do it on your own home. Before you release that money, go and find the deals. And then once you find a deal, you can release it. If you don't find a deal, don't release it, because you're just going to burden your debt and force your debt up. Often when money's in the bank, it can be spent without realising it. You spend more holidays, eat out more, you relax a bit because you've got a big balance in your bank. Before you know it, you've frittered it away. So really go into these strategies. But you can use homes to do that. I definitely can't do my drawings on all of these. Otherwise, we'll definitely run out of room. Number 2 is, let's do this a bit smaller. Number 2 is JVs. So this is joint ventures. So this stands for, joint venture. Apologies if there's any spellings in here, guys. Apologies for any spelling mistakes in advance. I'm dyslexic. This is for the purpose of giving you a little bit of visual with the learning. It's not for the purpose of me being grammatically correct or giving you a spelling exercise. I'm a bit dyslexic, so apologies for that. Forgot to put that little disclaimer in there. So joint ventures. Again, you might get, I'm not got much room for, what's the name? This over our nice guys over here. You might get Bill over here. He's got to have a smile on his face, even though I'm trying to do him smaller. You might have Bill over here who's got loads of time, but absolutely no time, but loads of money. So he's got a big tick next to the time, but he's got no money. But then you've got you over here that has got lots of time. So you've got a tick next to the time, but not so much money. But you've also got lots of knowledge. So I talk about this a lot. I talk about this, what's the name? So what makes a deal work is money, knowledge, network, and time. So all you need, if you've got no money, if you've got some networks, if you go out networking, get into the different groups, again, this is when I talk about this. If you've got low, if you're on 1 to 10, if you're low on all these, that means you're in this shape here. So you have to increase that. So you have to use, if you've got some time, you use your time to get a network, to get some knowledge, and then you will attract money. Again, depending where you start on this scale will depend on how quick you would attract that and build out a network. It depends how good you are at networking. Some people are naturally better at networking. Some people are natural go-getters more. Some people are more motivated. Some people got more energy naturally. So it just depends. There's no one linear path towards this. It's all dependent on you and your efforts. But look, if you've got this one in the middle, That is the key one, really. If you've got this one in the middle, you've got time. That is the key, really. Because if you've got time, you can then use that time to go over here and knowledge yourself. You can go on things like this. You can go on YouTube. You can go to network events. You can read books. You can network online. You can go into Facebook groups, network. So you can build this out, build this credibility out. So then when you've got these two credibilities together, how are we going to do that? We can link them together and we can come over to this person here who's got no time, for no knowledge, but lots of money. And you can get this part of it here because you can bring these three parts of the puzzle to it. It will be very attractive for this person over here. And often with a JV, very similar, same methodology works with other people's money. But with a JV, what you're going to do is this guy's going to put the money in, and you might say, okay, we will split, you put the money in and we will split this 50-50. Or whatever split you decide to do. When you're starting out, one of the things, if you're really over here and it's harder for you to attract people, what you might do is say, look, I'm going to do one deal for you for 100% of the profit. And they say, why are you doing that? Say, because I know I'm starting out. There's teething problems when you start out. So I said, be wary when you're lending money at the start, because you will have teething problems. So what you want to do is manage them expectations and forward manage the expectation. I can't think of a way to describe that, sorry. But basically, if you say something, look, I'll give you 100% on the first deal. So what you might say is, let's try and go up here, make some room over here. You might say, look, I'm going to give you 100% of the profits on the first deal. All I want is the opportunity to prove to you that I can work on this and prove that I can iron out these problems. There will be problems, say to them. There always is in property, even your experience. But what I want to do is, the fact you're putting faith in me, I want to compensate you for that. That 100% giving that to them, that social proof is worth more than the money from the deal. Then say the next second deal is going to be 75-25. And then the third deal is going to be 25-25. And you could run a path out. You might say start the first one off at 90 and get 10% out of it, depending where you are. But I promise you now, the first deal is worth a lot more to you with the social proof than it is the money. And you will get teething problems on the first one. This is why you've got to be so wary about, especially lending money. Let's separate this over here. Especially lending money at the start, because you've got to make sure you can exit it. And you mess up, you've got to make sure you've got your B plans and explored all the different possibilities across that. Otherwise, yeah, you could get yourself into a sticky situation and break your confidence and break your credibility as well at the same time. So number 3 is PLOs. This is purchase lease options. So this is when basically you'll find somebody, I'm going to run out of room doing this, my brilliant artwork, but you'll find somebody, you could do purchase lease option, you'll find somebody where you purchase it and you've got the option to buy. You've got the option, not the obligation. Or you could do just an option to buy, not purchase lease option. We could do an option to buy it with an exchange contract. So this is where you've got to have some sort of consideration. You want a legal contract in place, especially if you're going to do work to it. But you could find a property that somebody wants a bit too much money for, but you think you could turn it into a HMO or something like that, which could generate bigger income. So you're not so worried about the bricks and mortar value. So you say to them, look, I will give you £1 now, but then I will give you your full, oh, I'm going to do a dollar sign there. He's very dyslexic. But you say to them, look, I'm going to give you your full purchase asking price. Or above it, you might say, because you know, if you take this house, they want 100k for the property, but you know, look, I can turn that property into a vehicle that could potentially turn over 2.5k a month. And I could get commercial valuation on that, which might then force the value up to this building on a commercial valuation to maybe 180k or 200k. That means this price is irrelevant a bit because of the value you can force it up, and that might take it will take a refurb and a bit of reconstruction, but it means you could offer them maybe a bit more. So, but instead of doing a lease option, you might do just a purchase option where you secure it with a delayed key undertaking, a delayed completion. Make sure you secure any elements of work within now. So what that would enable you to do is get into the property very cheap. Or purchase at lease option, who does this work well for? This works well for people that are in negative equity as well. So you could say, look, you're negative equity, you need to sell, you're about to be repossessed, you really need to sell. So what we could do, we could give you the asking price, but we're going to complete on it in a year, in 5 years or 10 years time, when you either think the market's going to recover or you've saved enough profit from the property to pay the difference off, and the property's kind of paid for itself. You just put that money aside. So the purchase lease option is when you purchase it now for a set consideration. Usually it could be as little as £1, it could be 10 grand, depends on what the deal is. It's when you then pay them back in a future date, and you get a set date to pay it within. So you can exercise it any time in between that, but you've got a set date to do that. So you can lock that value in, and if you're in an area that you potentially got growth, then that works really well also. Just another quick reminder, if you're enjoying this, please give this a like, smash the subscribe button. It really helps the algorithms with this, push it out there and give me an understanding knowing that you are liking this, and I'll make more content like this. Right, what's the next one? The next one is, number 4 is property trading. So property trading is when you either, you can do property trading a few different ways. You can, let's put a bit of a, let's go here. So when you're property trading, you can either package deals where you just, package them where you just find a deal and just package it on for free, typically around 3k. So you find a deal, find an investor, sell that to them, they give you 3k, that's it, they take over for it. Or you can portfolio build. This is what we mainly do. Portfolio building is pretty difficult. Is hard work because you've got to deal with the builders, but it's a bit more rewarding, and you could typically charge around 5k for portfolio building. So this is when you go out, find deals, do it on behalf of somebody else, and just package and sell the deal on. Different from your JVs, different from lending the money. It's just a clean transaction. I've liked that. I've favoured that on raising money and getting into properties over the years, because it gives you a clean transaction, it gives you social proof, and it gets you out there practicing into property, and you just take that fee. And obviously the ideal world, you take that fee and you put it towards your own projects. If you're like me, you take that fee and you put it towards all the mess you made with the lettings company you started. But that's a story for another day. This fee really sort of rescued me out of going bust, to be fair. It was meant to buy properties for me, but it didn't. It just balanced me out when I scaled a bit quick, and it created a massive mess. I'm undoing some of that mess still to this day. Still not got it fully settled, but we're back in a decent position now. And yeah, that's a story for another day, as I said. But yeah, two ways, property trading. Number 5 is vendor finance. This is the one I haven't done myself. I always spell finance wrong, so apologies for that. But vendor finance is basically where you find a vendor and they will finance you the deal. They will be the bank for you. So this works really well when you've got somebody, like, say somebody's owned a property for 30 years. He's a tired landlord. He's fed up of property investing, all these changes, Section 24, all the regulations, all the compliance coming in place. He's really, really fed up with it. So what he desires to do is to sell up his properties, but he's not cash motivated. So there's 2 ways to do this. You could potentially get the vendor. You could potentially pay for the deposit yourself. So you put the deposit in. So say it's a 100k deposit, 100k property. This is 25k you put into it. It's going to be give or take. I'm not talking about legals, just showing you the principle behind it, not the exact figure. So if you put 25k in and he only owes 10k on it, this could be very tax efficient for them as well. They just might be fed up with managing properties. So if you put 25k on completion, if you arrange this with solicitors, what they can do is he can loan you back that money. So he'll loan that back to you with interest. So you might pay him that loan off over 5 years. So he's still got cash flow from the property like he used to have, but without all the headaches. But he's also released, if he loans you that 25k back and he only owes 10k on it, he's also he's also released 55k. So he's got a lump sum of money and the residual income still coming in, guaranteed, because he's not, and without the tenant hassle. So it can be quite attractive to them. Or they might be completely unencumbered and they just loan you, they loan you the full amount and you just pay them in interest. So the attraction from this would be for a vendor is to say, do you know what? I do like my income I get from this. I don't really want to be hit with massive tax bills and capital tax bills, but don't like dealing with tenants and the new compliance. So it can be very, very attractive for people. I've not done this one myself, so it's not something I've chose to look out for. Would I do this one? Probably, but I've just not really ever come across that. But I know people that successfully do that. Number 6 is, and I've also not done this one, I've just chose not to do this one, is rent to rent. So this is where you take somebody's property. So somebody's got a house again. Let's do my nice artistic house. Got some inspiration from Jamie York with these houses. I see how well of a drawer he was, and I thought to myself, you know what, I've got to compete with that and do some drawings like him. But you get your house from, again, usually hopefully a tied landlord or the HMO, but you get a normal house that can only rent as a single let, and then you transfer that into one or two things. You turn it into a HMO. So if it's big enough, you turn it into a HMO, or if it's existing HMO with a tied landlord that's fed up with all the legislation, you take on the HMO, or you turn it into an SA, something that generates a bigger cash flow. There's a few caveats with this strategy. Both of these are quite management intensive and a bit more advanced along the way. So I've seen many people get into rent to rents as a side hustle, and they've got a normal job and they don't realise, oh wow, there was a lot more to it. You hear loads of people chat about, they say, Airbnb don't own no property, Uber don't own no cars, earn money by controlling the assets, not owning the assets. But Airbnb and Uber both own an asset. Their asset is their list, their marketing, and the software's behind it. Uber software is phenomenal, and that is the asset, and their team that runs it. This won't be an asset for you. The caveat with this, and it's why I've not chosen to go into it, it won't be an asset for you unless you build a team that can operate and run it without you. I mean, fully operate and run it without you. So you could just go on one of Elon Musk's missions to Mars, come back, and not only is your rent-to-rent business still generating money, it's been able to hire staff, fire staff, it's been able to acquire new properties, all without you. It takes a systemization and a process to get to that systemization. A painful process, by the way, to get to that systemization. It is difficult. I'm not trying to put you off, but managing HMOs and SAs are quite intensive. HMOs, I've got HMOs and I've got my first SA now, so I'm not against them. I prefer to own the asset myself, because you remember as well, wealth building becomes within the assets, and especially over long-term appreciation as well, really helps you build wealth. So you're not owning the asset, you're just borrowing the asset, you know, and unless you set the systems and process up to run without you, it's not an asset, it's just something you're swapping your time for money. So think about wisely why you get into property, and managing HMOs can be a bit of a hassle. One of the guys I coach does rent to rents. I'm a fan of, for the right people, I think rent to rents are right, but just don't get into it just chasing that dream. Really be aware what you're getting into. A few of the guys I've coached on the BRR strategy, I've come from rent to rents, and it's been good for them. It's got them out of their 9 to 5, and that's a great transition. But think, like, one of the stories that's happened with one of the guys, he moved, like, he's got some rent to rents, and what he does when he moves them, because he manages it himself, he moved the tenant, when he moves tenants in, he tries to get as many housemates existing in there to meet them as possible. And this is the difficulty you'll get with HMOs, is you're getting 5, 6, 7 or 8 people to live together that don't know each other. You know, and when families live together, there's a bit of grief, but that stays within the family. But when people that don't know each other have some grievances, it spreads throughout their house, and then it comes back to you as a manager. They complain. If families are warring at home, they don't phone up the lettings manager and go, oh, do you know what? My husband, he's really peed me off today. He didn't do any washing up, or he left the socks on the radiators. In a HMO, you as a manager gets all them calls about the other people, what they're not doing, you know? So this guy, he's moved in a tenant. He's got all the housemates to meet her, a lady, and they all loved her. They loved her so much that they threw a party for her on the first night. He was then thinking, wow, got a great one here. First night cut happens, she brings her boyfriend, the boyfriend gets stupidly drunk, they have a massive row, somebody in the house one of the guys in the house tries splitting the row up because it was getting quite heated between them and quite physical. The guy is now threatening to stab this other guy in the house, there's police called. So what turned in from being a fantastic candidate turned into being a massive headache for him to deal with. So really think about it. I'm not saying don't do it, but always think about what you're getting into. This is a low barrier to entry to get into and can be lucrative, but there is trade-offs for it, you know, and there's a lot of responsibilities. A lot of the SA people, we've got another like announcements yesterday with masks, and they didn't say we're definitely not going into a lockdown. Like what happened, myself included, I've got an SA, I've just fired one up, I've got a few more coming through, but look what happened to SAs. So if you've got a load of rent to rents and everything stops again, and travel stops, and we go into a really severe lockdown because this new variant is really powerful, they just force us to lock down again and shut everything down again, you've still got to pay these rents, you know? Like, if your room's empty, you've got to pay the rents. If you don't manage it well, you get a tenant move in like that, and three people move out because they don't like his tenant, you've still got to pay the rent. You have to pay the mortgage, but the rent is considerably higher than the mortgage would be on that also. So really, that's why I've not got loads of HMOs. I've still got HMOs. I'm developing a HMO myself at the moment, but I like single lets myself because they're much more set and forget kind of properties. I will do both of these strategies, and I have got both of these strategies, and I will still do them, but there is a trade-off. There is much more intensity. If you can find good managers, helps, but on rent to rents, the margin gets really squeezed out with a manager. I paid my SA manager nearly £600 last month. So imagine if I was paying a mortgage instead of rent, which would be double, if not more. So my rent would probably be about £1,000 on this property instead of a £400 mortgage. You can see where my profits are going if I'm paying £600 management. So yeah, go think about how you get into it. But it can be a great strategy for some. I've not chose to use it. I nearly done one rent to rent years ago. Was trying to get a commercial building. I was going to open a shop in there, sunbed shop, and we was going to turn upstairs into rooms before even rent to rent was a thing. But that was a little bit of a different vehicle the way I was going to do that. And number 7, little to no money, is bridging. Bridging finance. So bridging finance is quite expensive, but bridging finance, there's a couple of ways you can do property with little to no money with using bridging finance. So number 1 is if you find genuine BMV properties. So this is below market value. I don't believe most properties are BMV, by the way. And let me tell you my theory behind it. If you've got your beautiful house, I won't draw another one up again and show you my artistic skills. But if you've got a beautiful house that needs 10 grand of work doing to it, and it's worth 100k, and you buy it for 60k, I don't believe that's below market value. I think that is the market value of that property, representing it needs some work doing it to bring it back up to market value. So that's the right value. That is the market value in its condition. So that's just a property with potential to force the value up, in my opinion. BMVs, like I bought a property from my electrician, and what happened was he split up with his girlfriend. They had a house together. The mortgage was name was still on the mortgage. He went, you keep it as long as you pay it. Didn't take his name for the mortgage. Years later, he found out she wasn't paying it. It was a decent property. Didn't need no work to it. There was no room to add any value to it, but he sold it for what he had left owed on it, which was a considerable margin left in now. Because he needed a quick sale because he's about to be repossessed. So that was genuine BMV. But the problem is you go to a lot of banks and they'll say, well, why this is not worth that. It's not worth more money, although there's 10 on that street that's sold for that. And you've got a reason why it's generally getting sold cheap. They say, well, no, it's only worth what you're paying for it. But bridgers will look at it differently. If you can generally demonstrate why it's BMV, they will potentially they will lend you 100% of the property because they see there's enough margin in there. Only a few of these bridges will do it, and they're quite fussy. You've got to really show strong evidence. Also, you can use, with bridging, equity in another home. So if you don't want to release equity, like I said up here, and have a long-term debt on that, you just want it short-term, you can use equity in another home to use as security. So you can get pretty much 100% lending. So if you bought in the south, for example, where I live, and you bought it 20 years ago, and you've got 300k worth of equity, you want to pay your loan down. So you're like, I don't want to really lend another 100k against my property, but I can secure 100k security against it to pay the deposit and the refurb of this new property I'm buying. And then once the new property is done, and I've refinanced it, I could pay back that second charge equity that I've charged it against. So you can release equity on your home that way. So yeah, there is a number of ways. I'm just making sure I've not missed anything from my notes and my little scribbles and my drawings. There's a number of ways you can buy property with little or no money. It can 100% be done, but depending where you are in this scale, like think of it as a gym, and you're looking at your weights up here. Think of it as a gym. That's a terrible drawing of a set of dumbbells, but think of it as a gym. If you're out of shape, it's going to take you longer to get to your six-pack. If you go to the gym and you don't carry much weight, you could get there a lot quicker. And that is the journey you've got to constantly be thinking about when you're trying to raise other people's money or do this creative finance. These bridges and these banks, if you're here and got no experience, and no money to put into it, they're going to not lend to you as easily as if you're here. It means you've probably got a bit more. Think of it on this triangle. You've got a bit more knowledge, experience, and time to put to it. So And maybe money as well. Even just because you've got money doesn't mean you don't want to leverage other people's money as well and leave yourself a bit of a buffer. So evolve your ideas, live on your own terms, have a fantastic day.